let's talk about what's going on in the world. Because as we were talking a little bit before we came on live, and I'm only mentioning this because it's a distraction. There are much more things that are much more important. I was driving back from Long Island, and you listen to conservative radio. I just kept flipping the channels, and the biggest scandal you would think in the world is um, French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife having a playful moment on a plane. I mean, is that? I think there are things that are much more important, especially what these crazy folks are doing in Washington D.C. Is the right just using that as a distraction?
I don't know what the hell they're doing with it. It makes no difference to me. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. You know why? You know why, D?
Right.
Because Macron is not my president.
Right.
I don't truly care what he does. I don't care if he wants to have a scotch. I don't care if he wants to have a tequila. I don't care if he wants to have a beer. I don't care if he's got, I don't care what's going on there. It doesn't have any effect upon America. But you know what does? Our president, he's got a real effect. When you're talking about the gutting of Medicare and Medicaid, and you're going to have to start dealing with mom and dad and relatives who are on medication, can't afford it. You're talking about the gutting of the Department of Education by Linda McMahon. You're talking about the FAA, losing budgetary money, the attacks on also education, Harvard and other, institutions, and the fact that they're willing to cut experimental cancer research for children. And so there's so much that's going on. I can go on for an hour talking about
can
all
I
of
add
these
to that?
Stupid executive orders.
Can I add to that? And then I'll let you go because I like where you're going with this. Also, I did today on my earlier live on YouTube. I did an entire hour on the grift that is the Trump family right now. They have made billions of dollars off of the presidency since Donald Trump took office this time. I just wanted to add that to your list, Michael.
Since we're going to talk about the grift, you may have seen the New York Times did a montage of various different news reporting. Now, something as well, and I'm going to share it with our Substack family, our community here. What ends up happening is the journalist writes the article, but then they submit it to the to the editor-in-chief, who gives it to copyright. Copyright comes up with a title for it. Many times the title is just to catch your eye, but it doesn't exemplify what's written in the article. But there's one photo, for example, there's 4 podiums, all with the Trump logo on it, in Vietnam. The Trump organization is building a golf complex in Vietnam worth, I don't even know how much. I mean, a fortune. And Eric Trump is standing there at the end. There's 3 other Vietnamese individuals standing at different podiums. And again, it's all part of the grift. And I say to myself, is it really necessary? Seriously, is it really necessary? What happens after Trump is out of office to all of these complexes, to all of these projects? They're all going to fail, right?
You think so?
I do. I believe that they will all fail. But you know what? Vietnam doesn't give a shit, D. You know what they care about right now? That they're sucking up to Trump and the family in order to avoid tariffs. So basically, they're willing to go ahead and to allow grifting to take place, the abuse and the use of governmental money and the fast tracking of the complex, the golf complex, fast tracked, simply so that they could avoid the increased tariffs. That's what it's all about. Do you know how much money, since we have everybody with us? And by the way, please keep smashing the heart and the square that has the up arrow there. Please share this with your family and your friends. Let's build a community so big. I write about this all the time, and I add it at the end of my Substacks. Without your help, without building this community, I want to be very clear about something. There is not a chance in the world that 2026 is going to result in the way that we want it to result.
Amen.
I
Amen.
want to say that, yes, the other day I wrote a Substack about Ken Martin. And I've never met Ken Martin. I wouldn't know him if I ran him over with my car, as I almost did with you in the Hamptons years ago. That's how Dee and I first, well, I shouldn't say it's not how we first became friends. It was how we actually became better friends. I almost ran him over. This idiot's running in the middle of the street, but that's neither here nor there.
No, I was crossing the street at a crosswalk, but that's
You were
okay.
actually running, you were jogging with Ken.
Yes,
All right.
at a
You just
crosswalk.
shot out from in between two cars. Suffice it to say, we're not going to get into that. Fortunately, I'm a very good driver and nobody got. Anyway, more importantly, we're sitting here and I wouldn't know this guy, Ken Martin, if I ran him over with the car. And at the end of the day, he is not the panacea to our problems. In fact, he's been in now since January of 2025. Have you heard anything? Have they reached out to Don Lemon and asked you to join a committee to help them to understand what your Substack, because you are an important voice, not just on Substack, but on all social media, your YouTube. Do they turn around and ask you to maybe help them to figure out what needs to be done in order to avoid a negative midterm election? Because if the midterms go wrong, I assure you, 2028 will never happen. And I keep warning people. You think Ken Martin and the DNC has reached out to Michael Cohen to turn around to say, you know him better than anybody. What do we need to do? How do we fight this machine that you helped to create a long time ago? What do we need to do to secure more victories? If they think that we're going to retake the House and the Senate and so on simply because Trump is so bad, they're wrong. They're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you something. I think that the DNC has the Democrats have the same problem that they've always had, and it's going to be hard for them to shake that. They're the party, quite honestly, of cancellation. They're the party of cancellation, and they are concerned about, well, Michael Cohen, oh my God, he has ties to Donald Trump, and in some way, because of that relationship, that is going to taint us. When Donald Trump has the worst of the worst relationships he has relationships with the worst of the worst, and not only does he have it, he is proud of it, and he also promotes them and puts them in office. You know why he does that? Because he realizes who the strongest voices are. He realizes the people who have their ear to the ground. He realized, as you said, who's important in these spaces. You're a very important person, but Democrats and the leaders of the party and the senators and the congressmen and even the people who do their PR, they don't understand that. They're still operating in DNC cancel culture, the same dumbass mindset that got Al Franken tossed out of the Senate. With stupidity. They need to stop it, and they need to be, in a way, they need to be deprogrammed. Similar to the MAGA people. They're brainwashed with purity tests. Everything is a purity test. That's their problem, Michael.
Yeah, they have no clue how to fight somebody like Donald Trump. They have no idea how to fight this MAGA culture. Zero. And the worst part is they're using an operational playbook that goes back 20 plus years that was like written in hand in Hillary Clinton's basement. I mean, it is not going to get us what we need.
It's not going to work.
It will not. And it's why I constantly turn around and I say to our Substack family, our community here, it is incumbent upon each and every one of you. If you are a Michael Cohen supporter and you are not following Don Lemon, shame on you. You need to help to advance all individuals on this platform who are of like mind so that we can develop a community that's so big. You see, the DNC doesn't have it. They don't have the ability within which to draw the right people so that we can actually, again, engage in dialogue and bring back the people who have left the Democratic Party or independents that have shifted more right than remaining left because they feel disenfranchised. They feel left out of the system, and it's not going to work for us. I assure you, I started writing my Substack for tomorrow because every morning they come out at 8 o'clock. And to those of you that, read it, and I know a lot do, I'm getting like 28, 29, 30,000 people reading each and every one of my posts. Now that I have almost 51,000, folks, I want to see that 51,000 to 100,000 by tomorrow. Why? So in that way, the next day we can say we need 200,000 and keep doubling it. And then every time that we come on, Don, myself, or a Jim Acosta, or if I do, for example, on Wednesday, I do with Joe Walsh and so on, each and every day when I do these Substack lives, we're building a community. Then one day I want to sit down with the top 20 or 50 Substack political rising folks. I'm number 8 right now. I want to sit down with the top 50, and I want us all to combine all of our assets together. And then ultimately have millions and millions of people. And then I can turn around and I could say to D Lemonade, hey, let's all go to DC. Let's all sit in the rotunda. Let's all go to or sit outside by the memorial, right? And let's all wear sky blue t-shirts. I don't care if it says anything on it. Everybody has to wear a sky blue t-shirt. Imagine if millions of people showed up and we have a nice little podium with a couple of bullhorns and some speakers. And I say, hey, Don, take the speaker, take the microphone, and go say hello to the crowd. Go tell the crowd that you're here not because you had nothing to do, because you care. You care about democracy. You care about the future of our country. You care about the grift that is putting our national security in danger every single day. That's what you care about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, but you're going to need that, and I agree with you 100%, but you're also going to need people who are willing to sacrifice something. I think that people are so comfortable. I've been saying this for a while now. People are so comfortable now and so used to their cushy lifestyles that they're afraid to be willing to sacrifice something, whether that's inconvenience, whether that is whatever it is. Now, I can't tell people in their own lives what they should or should not do, but I do think that protest is important, and I think getting involved is important. I think being aware is important. I think supporting independent journalists, I think that's important, because if you look at the news, the things that you think are important are not important. I said earlier today, Michael, I don't understand why the morning shows don't come on every single morning and say, good morning. Our big story, our top story is, since we left you on Friday for Memorial Day and we came back on this Tuesday, the Trump family, Donald Trump and the Trump family, has made this much money off of the presidency, and yet you're paying
You know
a
what,
high price
Don? That's
for
freaking.
gas, more for eggs, more for groceries and goods.
That's genius. In fact, you know what they should do? The way we had, remember we used to have the debt clock at the bottom?
Yeah,
They should
that's what they should
have
do.
a Trump grift
Yeah,
clock. That
yeah,
maybe you and I should turn around and we'll do it. And
yeah.
in each time we'll just post at the bottom of this how much money that they made. This is obscene. While people are struggling, and I get exactly what you're saying. People don't know, and they think that this is some sort of a left-wing conspiracy within which to damage Trump Incorporated and Don and Eric or Ivanka and Jared's business opportunities. No, it's not. When you have now, Trump organization is going to be building properties, we'll call them assets, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar,
Yeah.
in
This,
Vietnam. I know that they have another project that's going on somewhere else, maybe in Oman or something like, or Amman. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But all I know is that there are so many projects that's there, and they feel just because they tell you about the project that means that they're being transparent. They
right.
are not.
They're doing it in plain sight. They're grifting out in plain sight. They are taking advantage of the presidency in plain sight. Look, this is before when they were a little bit more reluctant to profit off of the presidency. They still were. During their tenure as senior advisors in the Trump White House in 2017, from 2017 to 2021, Ivanka and Jared Kushner reportedly earned between 172 million and 640 million in outside income. That's according to financial disclosures analyzed by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Now, this time around, with the Trump boys, with Eric and Donald Jr., they have made even more. Now, of course, especially with this meme coin thing, right? With this cryptocurrency thing. Reportedly, they have made the Trump family $1 billion a month. Their wealth has increased $1 billion per month since Donald Trump took
Don, did
office
you hear
in January.
the latest part of this grift? What they want to do now, and they announced it this morning. Just as this grift doesn't stop. It's like a juggler in the circus. First he starts with 2 balls, then 3 balls, then 4, then 5, then 6, and it just keeps going and going and going. This morning they announced that they're going to make their Truth Social into a holding platform for crypto, meaning they want you to don't buy your crypto on, say, like a Coinbase or some
Buy
other
it from them.
platform. Buy it through them. They take a management fee, but buy it through them. They will hold, I don't even know how much money in crypto, and who knows how much money that is actually worth. Now, remember, their father, who hated crypto, Donald, never understood crypto. In fact, he used to say all the time, it's bullshit.
It's
It
a
doesn't
ripoff.
exist. It's a scam. It's how could you have a currency that's based on nothing? It's based on air, right? And he's not wrong about that. But he now wants to convert the United States holdings, meaning gold, into crypto, into coins. This is not a joke. And so anybody that's going to buy it, if you want to curry favor, as these 220 idiots that ended up going to Mar-a-Lago, the top people who bought his meme coin, had a chance to dine with him. What did Trump do? He flew in by helicopter to the Virginia golf course, talked about, I don't know, rambling about Don Lemon's glasses or the lemon sign that's in your background, got back into the helicopter and left after 15 minutes. Imagine that. These people each invested somewhere in the ballpark of $10 million in his meme coin, which, by the way, it says right there in black and white, this should not be relied upon as an investment tool, but rather your appreciation and regard for the hard work that is being done by President Donald J. Trump. Imagine that.
From that, let's move on now and talk about the incompetence of the administration with policy and with firing people. Did you see the story about Pete Hegseth? And apparently, he said that he was had wiretapped someone or had tapped someone, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 that's illegal." And now it seems that the White House has lost confidence in Hegseth's investigation that he used to get rid of some of his top employees, to fire them. Did you see that story?
I did. The story didn't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest with you, because it's missing a lot of the facts. You know, that's also
What do you mean?
well, it doesn't talk about how he actually wiretapped and what the exact information, other than there was a wiretap that produced information that he used within which to fire senior staff over at the Department of Defense. Now, let me be very clear about something. I think Pete Hegseth, for all of his intelligence and his higher education, his Ivy League education, I think he's completely incompetent as it relates to this position that Trump bestowed upon him, which was not based off of meritocracy, but based upon loyalty. The fact that Trump has now taken, I believe it's 24 individuals from Fox News Corp and brought them to the White House. 24. needs to show you he has no pool of individuals, and that the group of individuals that are there, because they're also insulated, they're so homogenous that they don't have the ability within which to reach out to other groups and other organizations, that they are only pooling from themselves. They were taking a lot of people from Congress, but Trump can't afford to lose anyone, not in Congress, not in the House, not in the Senate. And so they're staying away from members of Congress to come join the administration. But they have no pool of people because they've already basically sucked out. And when you need to go to Janine Pirro, for God's sakes,
Oh
that's
my
when you
God.
know that you have a real issue on your hands.
Did you see her leading that press conference the other day? I was like, oh my God, what world are we living in where she is leading an investigation into what happened in DC, which was an important thing. I just wish that there was someone who was more relevant, more suited, more competent to be able to, you know what I mean, deserving and worthy of that position. But I just want the folks who are, just in case you haven't read the story, I think The Guardian did the best investigation. It says White House stunned as heck inquiry brings up illegal wiretap claims. The White House has lost confidence in a Pentagon leak investigation that Pete Hegseth used to justify firing 3 top aides last month after advisors were told that the aides had supposedly been outed by an illegal, warrantless National Security Agency wiretap. Now, do you remember, Michael? I'm sure
I
you
sure
will.
do.
The Obama administration illegally wiretapped and spied on the Trump campaign. Do you remember that?
I sure do. What was the name of the guy? The bald-headed, tall, thin guy that was there. I'm blanking on his name.
For
Um,
whose side?
on the Trump side, that they claim that the Obama camp had
Oh,
spied.
it wasn't the guy
He
who
was the
was
one
the.
that went and spoke in Russia at a conference.
Oh
Not
shit!
Papadopoulos, the other guy.
But it's not the
That
guy who was in charge of the inauguration. That dude was a good friend. I can't remember his name. But anyway, go
Yeah,
on. What happened?
my point is how they were screaming on that. The difference, though, is that the results of that wiretap, and they went through the judge, for it, and that they claim that it was never refiled, and that the whole thing was, none of it made any sense because the allegations that they were making were not true. But here, even the Guardian doesn't have any legitimate information as to what they found out about these wiretaps. Who was the magistrate that signed off on it? What was the information? Where were the wiretaps conducted? Were they hardline wiretaps? Were they cell phone wiretaps? Were the wiretaps merely just call logs? There's a million and one questions that need to come out. But you're not wrong, Don. This is extremely important because, again, it goes to the belief that these folks feel that they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. For all you know, they have your phones tapped, my phone's tapped. That they feel that they don't even have to go to judges anymore within which to do it. If Pete Hegseth, in his infinite wisdom, decides that or Kristi Noem decides that you are harboring illegals, or that you are working with groups within which to harbor them, and that they think that by just by demanding a wiretap be placed, that they can do it. This is not how democracies function. This is exactly how autocracies run.
Are we talking about Tom Barrett? Is that the guy you're talking about?
No, no.
Okay. I thought we were talking about Tom Barrett, but there was a Barrett or John Barrett or something, but he was a good friend of Donald Trump, bald guy who was in charge of the inauguration, and then was, I guess, one of the people that was either accused the Obama folks of wiretapping the Trump campaign. But that was a big
Yeah.
deal. Look, it's the same playbook over and over from 2016. It's only right now the degree of brazenness, right? I mean, I think it is multiplied since 2016. I had a very interesting thing. A friend who is not a Republican, but he couldn't stand Kamala Harris. And he's like, oh, I just can't stand Kamala Harris. And I'm going to have to reluctantly vote for Donald Trump. Called me this weekend, Michael, and said, I am stunned and shocked by the level of corruption in the Trump campaign. And I said, in the Trump administration, I said, what? He goes, do you know how much money Donald Trump Jr. made on blah, 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 and the Qataris are giving him this and whatever? I said, are you out of your mind? What are you stunned by? This
Right.
isn't anything new. Why would someone be stunned by that?
Did you ask your friend? Well, I don't know. I mean, I remember seeing my friend Michael Cohen on television or report on the front page of every newspaper every single day, turning around and telling you exactly what was going to go on. And it's not like I have some crystal ball. Many people said it. You said it as well, that the level of the grift is going to be
I
exponential
said it.
compared to what it was before. All right. And you
I
know
said,
what?
can you
They have
imagine?
not disappointed. Don,
I
they have not disappointed.
they have not,
Over
Michael. And I remember
over
saying during the
10
campaign,
over
I was
10
telling people,
billion.
if you think the first term was bad, imagine Donald Trump without any guardrails.
Right. Over $10 billion made so far by Trump and his family since becoming president-elect. $10 billion. I want
It's
people to let that shit sink in. He's making $1 billion a month just off of his crypto. $1 billion a month right now. All right, let
reportedly.
that sink in when you're sitting there and you got to put back 2 oranges and a carton of milk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You think about that your president and his family are racking in money like never seen before. They're acting in ways that no president has ever acted before. And you're suffering.
Let me put it this way, Michael Cohen. When he's telling people that maybe you're going to have $2 instead of more dollars, and maybe you're going to have to cut back on this. We're going to reduce your Medicaid. We're going to reduce the social safety net. We're going to put bigger holes in it while he is making billions of dollars. Also, the money that you donate to my campaign, this was back last year, it's first off the top is going to go to pay for my legal bills. Now, has he returned any of the money of the people who paid for his legal bills now that he's making $1
No,
billion a month? Has he
no.
said, thank you very much? I'm going to, for all of those who paid, this is how much money, these are the millions of dollars that went to pay my legal bills. So all of you folks, I'm going to send you some of that money back because I've made more than enough money to be able to pay it now.
Yeah, so the
Has he
problem
done
with
that?
that be, yeah, great point. The problem is, money flows to Trump like the way traffic flows on First Avenue, one way,
One direction.
one direction. All right, let me be very clear about that. The whole thing is just absolutely gross. Listening, for example, to like King Charles making these statements, literally going to Canada to make statements about how Canada will not be ruled
The
by
51st state.
ruled by anybody, then going and meeting with Mark Carney, the new prime minister, who again sat in the Oval Office and explained to President Trump that not everything is for sale. For example, the White House. There are plenty of people that could build the White House. There are
Yeah.
plenty of people that could actually buy it based upon its value. But here's the thing, it's not and never will be for sale. Well, you know what is for sale and what they are actually selling to acolytes and enablers of Trump? How
Access to the
about
presidency.
forests, right? National forests, so that they can chop down the trees, thinking that we're going to now mysteriously, it's easy to chop a fucking tree down. You take a saw, right? You go there, you do it on an angle so it doesn't fall on top of you, right? You pull it down. Okay, great. Now that you knocked down this fucking tree, you killed the tree. Why don't you tell me how are you going to process it? Where are you processing? Where's the lumber mills? How many of them you think exist? Not enough for what Trump thinks, that we can do without Canada. And the notion that Canada doesn't play a vital role in America and how we function, whether it's rolled steel, whether it's metals, whether it's steel girders, whether it's soft lumber, whether it's energy, meaning electricity. Your electricity, Don, believe it or not, in New York is not produced by the United States. Our electricity, the bulk of it in New York, comes from Ontario. It comes from a
Canada.
power plant in Ontario. Me, if I was Mark Carney, and I would turn around, I would go on television, very much like what Vladimir Putin did as he, was laughing at Trump's recent tweet. I would say, if I was Mark Carney, Mr. President, I want to be very clear about something. And I only want to say it once, since there's an old expression my grandmother and grandpa used to say all the time: once to the wise should be sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
If you make me say it again, you're going to put yourself in a bad situation. Talk about Canada becoming the 51st state again, and I shut the switch off that powers the entire northeast of your country.
Mm-hmm. Or
My
just
power. It's my power. I can do with it as I wish. You're a client. You're a customer. I don't have to supply you that power. Go do it on your own, since you think you could do everything on your own. Maybe you can get on a treadmill, right, or a bicycle and pump so hard that you could create enough energy in order to power the Northeast, right?
Well, if you're going to count on Trump to do that, we're all in trouble.
That's my whole point. We get a lot from Canada, and the notion that it's okay to disparage and disrespect an ally, your closest ally, your neighbor, your friend, they've all lost their goddamn minds. I'll tell you who hasn't. So Trump put out this really stupid Truth Social post about Vladimir Putin. I'm very angry. He's gone crazy, all caps with an exclamation mark. So what do? They make fun of him on Russian television.
China's doing the same thing of him and JD Vance. They're making fun of Donald Trump and JD Vance every single day.
They're making fun of him on Russian television, turning around and talking about, oh, Vladimir Putin is very nervous right now because Donald Trump is very concerned. And then they turn around and they compliment, which is really a backhanded slap. They compliment Melania. They say to Donald, oh, boy, your wife Melania is something special. And he turns around, and of course, Donald, it's his wife, so it's an extension of him. Meanwhile, on Russian television, every single day, they post nude photos of Melania. Every single day. They're making fun of the First Lady.
Well, I mean, they're not lying. They're out there. They're nude photos.
There are, but
they're partially nude. I mean, are there? Oh, wait a minute. No, they're full nude ones, right? Am I wrong? Yeah. Where does she live, by the way?
Well, right now, I believe Melania's in New York. I believe that because I went over to my doctor.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I went to my doctor just the other day, and that she's there because they have the street that they live on, 56th Street, completely blocked off, and you see the entire military there, right? Guarding the entire street with the cages up and the concrete and everything like that. They don't.
Sure, that's not for Barron being there.
No, Barron wouldn't get that sort of Secret Service protection. He would get some, but I'm talking about, they got them all with the cars in front and so on. The funny thing is, when she's there, she never leaves. So, if she's not really planning on leaving, how about send half the people home and save the American taxpayer a couple of dollars? But they don't care. Meanwhile, yesterday, with everything, after he shot out, for example, away from West Point, after some stupid, ridiculous comments that he made about yachts and divorce and trophy wives, Trump spent most of Memorial Day on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
there's so much that's wrong, my brother. But let me just finish by saying the following. All right. Um, there's only so much that Don Lemon can do.
that's true.
There's only so much that Michael Cohen can do. There is no knight in shining armor on the stallion riding in to save the day. That doesn't exist. There's only one way for us to ensure that democracy continues for our children and future generations to come, and that's if you get involved. Every single one of you that's with us, the 1,200 or so people that are with us, every single one of you have an obligation. First and foremost, support independent journalism like what goes on here on Substack or even like with Midas Touch. You have no choice. Write a letter. Make a phone call to a Congress member. Grab a friend or a family member and make them follow Don Lemon. Make them follow Michael Cohen. Make them listen to
Subscribe.
the conversation. Subscribe. Make them listen to the conversation. Make them join the community. And I promise you, we will grow. We will grow fast and we will grow strong because right now, staying quiet is not going to benefit us. Being loud, being aggressive, showing the rage that we have for a group of individuals that they don't want to lead in order to benefit you. They want to lead in order to benefit themselves. And if we're
Yeah.
going to stop it, there's only one way, and that's together.
Hey, I couldn't put it better. I think we should end on that. So, Michael, we'll see you. I'm sure you'll be doing lives throughout the day. You have more lives coming up because
Not today. Not today. Tomorrow.
Make sure you tune into the Don Lemon Show 5 o'clock on YouTube
Yep, I will.
for live at 5.
You
And
know,
then I'll see you tomorrow. I am scheduling a live, and maybe you can hop on with us, sometime halfway through or whatever, with the one and only Michael Fanone. We were supposed to do it today. We usually do it before you, but I have not been as present on media and especially on Substack since the death of my sister. I just have not had the energy,
yeah.
and I've just been dealing with it. So, I'm coming back. I'm coming back slowly, and I also have to write something about it. I have something that I need to write for Substack that I've been hanging on to. But Michael's just been so personal to me that I can't do it. Do you understand what I'm
Understandable.
saying?
You
Yeah,
have listen. As we like to say in the Jewish tradition, may her memory be a blessing and
yeah,
provide comfort to you and your family.
yeah. Thank you, Michael. I will see you tomorrow. We'll holler if we'll see if Fanone is wants to have you
He's
on. He
great.
may
I've
say
had I've had him on. He's a great guy,
no. He's
and
going to say you only need one Michael for this, and
that's
then.
right. Thank you, my
Love
brother.
you, brother. Next
Good
week,
to
look, we came on at 4 today because I was in transit, but we're at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. The Lemon Cohen Report right here on Substack. I'll see you, brother. Thank
thank
you.
you.
For
Thank you,
everyone,
pal.
see you at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, live at 5 on YouTube. See you. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.